A&E is a department unlike any other. It's incredibly fast-paced. It's where life-saving treatment happens. It stands at the doors of the hospital, treating those who are really unwell, sending those who need further treatment to their specialties, and making sure that we discharge patients home safely. I've been working in A&E for the last 4 months, and honestly, it's been incredibly hectic, but also amazing. Every single day is a new learning curve because absolutely anyone and anything can walk through the doors. I can go from seeing a heart attack to treating a road traffic accident casualty to having an angry psychotic person screaming down my face. As a junior doctor, you slot into a rota that ensures that essentially there's always someone covering the department, which means that you are doing night shifts, you're going straight into late shifts, and then you're going to day shifts constantly. And that can be really exhausting in your body because your circadian rhythm's constantly swapping. You assume a lot of responsibility for the patients that come through the door, and you do your best to help your patients. A typical day in A&E starts at 8 a.m. when we meet the night team for a brief handover. We hear about any patients still left in the department, hear about how the night shift went, and meet all the lovely nurses, doctors, and physician associates we'll be working with on this shift. And it tends to be someone different every time just because the rota is so different every day. A&E consists of several sections which patients are assigned to essentially depending on how unwell they are. There's a minor section encompassing ambulatory care and urgent care, which essentially is for patients who've come to the hospital but who are stable in terms of their observations. There's a major section in terms of patients who might not be as stable as in their observations, and there's a resuscitation section for the critically unwell patients who might require a form of life-saving treatment or closer monitoring. Once we arrive at our department, we all pick up a patient to see and we start our day. When I see a patient, I make sure I'm as thorough as possible in everything that I do. Patients often come in with complex complaints, and it's important to be comprehensive and try not to miss anything. I first spent some time looking through the notes, which consists of the triage documentation of when they've come to hospital, ambulance sheets written by the paramedics, and their online records. Once I understand the situation better, I go speak to the patient and get a full history about what's brought them into hospital. I then perform a full examination to identify any clinical signs and order investigations that I think will guide me in figuring out what the cause of their problem is. This often includes blood tests and scans like X-rays, CT scans, and ultrasounds. I also will start treatment that I think is necessary, such as antibiotics for infections, or fluids intravenously if they're severely dehydrated. After you sort out your patient, which can essentially mean that they've received enough treatment to go home or they're being admitted to the hospital, you wrap up your notes and you move on to the next one. And we essentially do this constantly throughout the day, one after another, so it almost feels like it never really stops. The experience of seeing so many patients drills into you a really good culture of being absolutely thorough in what you do and not missing anything. It really forces you to think about the diagnosis and consider whether the patient really needs to be in hospital. And this is important because there are significant risks associated with being admitted to hospital that do also need to be taken into account. Working in the emergency department has been incredible, and honestly, in the worst of circumstances, it's been my favorite job as a doctor so far. A&E is almost like a mashup of all the specialties, most acute presentations, so you really get to learn and manage a wide range of diseases. Oftentimes you are the first and actually sometimes the only doctor who sees this patient in the hospital. And this is a huge responsibility, but also an immense privilege to be there for someone at their weakest. I loved being on the front lines and having a real tangible but also personal impact on patient care. And I won't sugarcoat it, emergency medicine is a really tough job. Half the time I felt jet lagged because my body rhythm was constantly changing. I was constantly working different hours. And while you're at work, you're constantly busy in a really stressful environment, trying to move people on, getting treatment at an appropriate time. This was also one of the most mentally challenging periods of my life. We saw COVID and we saw a lot of death, we saw a lot of sickness, and sometimes very little hope. Honestly, COVID-19 was an incredibly difficult time in hospital. We were told that it was a hoax, yet I wish they could have seen what I was seeing in hospital. And years from now, I have no doubt that I will still remember those mask-strapped faces, hunched forwards, gasping for breath. And I left many a shift feeling dejected, knowing that I would have to go do the exact same thing the next day. Still, there's just something about A&E though, you know? There's a real unspoken camaraderie in coming into a night shift, feeling absolutely exhausted, being 3 doctors down with 20 patients waiting to be seen, and grueling through your entire night shift and emerging victorious, knowing that you've made a real difference in someone else's life or someone else's experience in the hospital. You learn not to be fazed by anything. You build almost a sort of resilience around all the crap that happens around you, to sickness, to death, and the stress that you bear while you operate. Working in A&E was a really important period for me because I already know that I have become a much better doctor. From a short 4 months, I feel more confident in decision making and management of critically unwell patients. And yes, it can be really stressful and really tiring, but you grow from responsibility and you grow from being outside your comfort zone. Overall, I've learned tons and feel like I've grown as a person and as a doctor through my time in A&E. And I would say that if you are a junior doctor or a budding junior doctor, you should definitely try spend some time in the emergency department. It not only gives you perspective on healthcare and medicine, but it helps you understand the system and the flow of the hospital better. But anyways, that is it for now, and I hope you've enjoyed this. And if you had any questions about A&E or life as a junior doctor, feel free to drop a comment down below or drop me a message on Instagram or Twitter. If you'd like to see more of my A&E and hospital experiences, feel free to check out my vlogs about my shifts at work and my life as a junior doctor. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.